Twice before, a long, long time ago. The first time ever was the first gig on the Mott the Hoople tour when we were supporting them way back in prehistoric ages. And the second time was Leeds University. I remember it well because I damaged my foot quite severely on a table just before the gig, so I played it with much pain.
Right. Being the drummer of the band, the drummer normally doesn't take as much part in the writing of songs, but obviously you seem to have a great deal of involvement in the writing of Queen stuff. Why is that?
I suppose it's partially because I sing a lot in our music. I do quite a lot of the harmonies and the odd lead, and sing. Also on stage, I sing more than people probably realise. I think because I'm at the back, so they can't really see if you're singing or not. I think most of the time. I suppose that's one reason. Also, I always thought of myself as more of a musician than just being a drummer. You know, I'm not one of those people who practices drums for 3 hours a day.
What sort of other bands do you admire around at the moment?
Oh, lots actually. I'll tell you who I like. I think Madness are good at the moment. I love their new single. They do things with a nice sense of humour, quite intelligently done as well. All sorts of people. You know, I quite like some of Bow Wow Wow stuff. You know. But I mean, really admire, I suppose. I mean, I don't know. You know, it's difficult. Everybody's got their own favourites.
If I may say so, the new album Hot Space is fairly disco influenced, or maybe that's wrong. How would you say it? You seem to be taking a new direction, anyway.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it disco actually. I think side 2 is really very much like a lot of. It's very much mixed up, like our old albums were. You know, a variety of stuff. So there's some quite heavy stuff on there as well. The first side is we'd sort of call it. I suppose it's slightly more American. It's funk, more funk based, I suppose. But I wouldn't really call it disco. Horrible word, isn't it?
It is actually. Yes, it's not a word I prefer to use. What number album is this then? Because you've made quite a lot.
Oh God, I don't know. I think it's 12th. It might be the 13th. I think it's the 12th. Yeah.
Right, because you started out very rocky with the first few albums, but a review of all your albums put together I was reading recently, it said heavy metal aficionados stop at the third album, really, which is a shame.
Yeah, and we never thought of ourselves as just a heavy metal band. I always think that's a pretty narrow approach. We're a musical band, really, who make all sorts of music. We always have. I think if you look at any of the albums, they're... barring perhaps the first one, which is more one-dimensional, really, but I'd say there's a lot of varying styles, especially on the second one. I mean, nobody could call that a heavy metal album. It's got some really intricate stuff on it.
You wrote "I'm in Love with My Car," which seemed to be quite a popular song. Is that true? Are you a car fanatic?
Actually, well, I do like cars, yeah. I wouldn't call myself a fanatic. I do like cars, I enjoy them. And luckily enough, I'm in a position to. But no, actually, it was written about somebody else who was absolutely in love with his car. It was our old sound mixer, actually, and it was about him, really. And it was also written about all those people who polish their cars lovingly on Sundays and things like that.
You originally started off in a band called Smile, along with Brian May. What sort of stuff did you used to play then?
Well, that was very, very, very different. It was more spontaneous. We'd start out. It was in the days of sort of Cream and Hendrix and people like that, and it would be a lot of jamming. We'd start off with a definite song structure. We used to do a sort of ultra heavy version of Mony Mony and If I Were a Carpenter, things like that, and it would go into it, change tempos. It would sort of extemporise into like a 30-minute jam, really.
Did you honestly see yourself as sort of going for a long time when you originally formed Queen? Because you've been going 10 years now. It's a long time to be around.
Yeah, you don't really think in those terms when you start off, but we always took it very seriously, and we always had sort of quite big ideas, really. And so I suppose we would have hoped that it would have continued going this long, I suppose, if we'd really thought about it like that. It was always a long-term thing, yeah. It was never meant to be a short-term thing.
Because Status Quo have recently celebrated their 20th anniversary. Do you see Queen going on for another 10 years?
God, I don't know. It's an impossible question.
Yeah.
I think it really depends if we keep enjoying really making the music, you know, and we keep making music that people like. I really wouldn't. I think if we sort of lost our popularity, I think we'd probably call it a day then. You know, if we lost the major part of our popularity, I think.
I can't see that honestly happening. I've just been down to Ellendale actually whilst
yeah, what's it like down there? I haven't been down there.
It's a hot, sweaty business, and the sun's shining. The crowd are taking to Hart very well.
Oh, great, because they're Hart are very old friends of ours from America. We've known them for years.
I was amazed. I ran a quiz competition earlier last week with prizes as Queen tickets, and I said, "Where do Hart come from?" People were saying, Birmingham, Manchester. They thought they were an English band.
Really? Yeah, from Seattle.
There's a great deal of ignorance about that particular band, which is a shame, really, because they're a highly talented bunch.
Oh, they're very good band. Yeah. They used to have very heavy Led Zeppelin influences, but I think perhaps they're going away from that now. I don't know.
Turning back to your band, how did you get involved in composing the soundtrack to Flash?
Well, we were asked. No, actually, we got offered quite a lot of film soundtracks, and that was the only one which really interested us. And we thought it was an interesting sort of blend of sort of comic science fiction and sort of rococo, if you know what I mean. It's difficult. It just seemed like an interesting project to get involved with. So we thought if we do a film, soundtrack, this seems like one of the more interesting ones to do.
How long did it take you to make Night at the Opera?
Oh God, bloody years. No, actually, I think it took about 5 months.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Because it's an incredibly complicated album.
Yeah, it was ridiculously hard work. At one point we were using like 3 studios, and we were all finishing off different things in different studios to get it finished.
Because you have your own studios in Switzerland, I believe, don't you?
Yes, Mountain Studios in Switzerland. Yeah.
And you obviously, I believe, a number of top-line bands that you also use that studio.
Yeah, in fact, Status Quo just finished their 1982 album there, and they liked it a lot. Well, they said they did. And a lot of people use it. I mean, Bowie uses it quite a bit. He lives nearby.
Every time you play, there's always a bit of conjecture as to whether Bowie's going to appear on stage to do Under Pressure with you. Do you actually do Under Pressure on stage without Bowie?
Yeah, we do actually. I'm afraid I have to do his bit. I have to do the... It's very difficult. It's a bit low for me, but yes, I have to do that bit. He might come on one day, but I know he's not here now. In fact, I've lost his number. I lost my phone book the other day.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're only doing, as far as I'm aware, 3 dates in this country. Why is that? Is it lack of venues?
Actually, it's 4.
4?
Well, because we're doing 2, I believe, in Edinburgh. Well, no. We were going to do, nobody knows this, but we were going to do the Albert Hall in London as a sort of very sort of quick gig, but the Albert Hall agreed to let us put our stage and our equipment in there. Then they just turned around the other day and said, "I'm sorry, you can't bring those lights in here. You can't hang them at all." So we had to cancel it. It was never put on sale, so at least nobody was sort of hurt in that way,
I heard a rumour that this tour is costing you something in excess of $2 million. Is that right?
I really don't know. I couldn't tell you. I hope we break even on it. It's not very nice to lose money on tour. It's obviously a big investment, a tour like this. If somebody gets ill and we have to cancel things, it's an awful lot of equipment and road crew and everything, and trucks and buses and whatever that have been sort of invested in. But we're nearing the end of this European tour now, so it's all been going very well.
And where do you go after this?
After we do Milton Keynes just outside London next week, I think we'd take a short break, I think, and we then go to America. We've got a sort of full-scale tour of that happening.
Do you know how the album's selling in America at the moment?
It's doing very well indeed, actually. I just heard yesterday it's gone into the Cashbox Top 10, which is great. It's amazing because it's only been out about 3 weeks. It usually takes months to get there in America because the charts are very slow there. And the single is number 17, I think, in all the charts. Which is going up very quickly. It looks great.
Is it the same single release in this country as it is in the States?
Yes, although in fact we're bringing out... Body Language was a bit of a flop here in England. It really didn't catch on in England at all. And, perhaps it was a mistake. I thought it was an interesting, different record for us to make. And I think of its type, I thought it was a good record. But
perhaps too different for the fans.
Yeah, I think so. There was a lot of... I feel there's a lot of anti-reaction to it. So we're bringing out something which is slightly more in our sort of known style, called Las Palabras de Amor, I think it is called.
I'm good in pronouncing that.
Terrible, yeah. I think it's translated, it's the words of love, I think.
Great. Well, Roger Taylor, thanks very much for talking to you.
Thank you. It's been very nice.
Yeah, and I wish you well with the gig tonight, and I only hope you come back to Leeds sometime.
We'd love to, and I hope it goes very well tonight also. I hope we have no incidents of any kind. I think the residents who are worried around the stadium will find out that that rock concerts really aren't as much bother as football matches, you know. So I think it will go fine.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
Welcome back. I was curious to know why Queen sometimes didn't attempt to play some of their more complicated songs on stage these days, when I'd seen them attempt them before.
Because you can always do different versions, you know, you're out on stage and it's a different environment, and we've always had the view that if you go out there, you're there to entertain people and excite them and just give everything you've got in that short time that you're with them. And you can do anything you want, but it'll always have a different slant. And a lot of things actually are better live than on record, I think, for that particular situation. So we just do an adaptation if we think we should be doing the song.
All right, because I remember seeing you in Manchester on the night at the Opera Tour and thinking, when I was walking in, they're never ever going to do stuff like the Prophet song and things like that on stage. How on earth did you manage to do it?
Actually, we did do that, yes. I don't know how, come to think of it, don't know how we managed it. You just change it, as I say. It's very strange. You can almost sort of lull people into thinking that they are hearing things which they're not, because in a live situation, there's so much noise going on anyway that you can, in a way, almost listen to only one instrument at a time. And if you're careful and you do the things which matter, and it's mixed in such a way that the attention is always drawn to the right instrument, it's almost a disadvantage to have too many instruments. You know, it can get very cluttered, because a live situation is something which happens at that second and it's gone. And so sometimes it's a good idea to be simple. Having said that, I'm going to contradict myself, because we have actually brought a keyboard player with us this time to fill in some of the bits which were lacking. But there was a particular reason for that, in that there's some particular bass synth stuff on the new album, and which, you know, either Freddie or John or myself had done, and none of us particularly wanted to play it on stage because it's so restricting. So we thought we'd get someone to just do that, so we still have the freedom of the stage.
I see. Tell me, you used to have a guitar made out of wood from an old fireplace, I remember hearing.
Yes, I've still got it. That's my homemade special, yes.
Right. From your father's fireplace. The actual sound of Queen, throughout the many sort of changes in the types of music that you've covered, has always been constant, mainly, I feel, through your guitar work. Do you have several different guitars that you use, or do you just have one when you're actually recording?
Mainly that one. There are a few trademarks in Queen, I think. You know, Freddie's voice is instantly recognisable, and the guitar does have a certain sound. And, you know, usually we have our voices in harmony have a particular ring to them, you know. But as far as the guitar, yes, it's the same guitar always, except for a few deliberate little pastiches, like the bit in Crazy Little Thing was an old Telecaster, because that was I was trying to get a period sound there for a period piece.
I was amazed to hear you doing rock and roll actually on Crazy Little Thing, because it's a very poppy number. Yet it's a measure of the depth of talent in the band, that you can cover something as instantly listenable as that, and yet do something completely sort of long and uncommercial, as it were, next minute.
Very kind of you to say so, Mike. The answer is, if there is an answer, that everybody comes up with songs and we give them the treatment that they seem to deserve.
Would you consider playing Leeds again?
Oh yes. Leeds is a problem the same way as London, actually, in that it's hard to find the right place to play. It would be nice to find somewhere that had about 5,000 seats and a good sound. That would be the ideal place, and I think a lot more people would come, because it's known to be a good audience up here. This is, it's much more fun. I shouldn't say this really, but it's much more fun to play up here in the north than it is in London, because people actually appreciate you more in a way. I noticed it coming here this time. People actually are so pleased to see you that you feel good. They don't just say, "Oh yeah, we had so-and-so last week, we had so-and-so."
There tends to be that attitude in London, doesn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I can say that because I come from there, and there is that sort of feeling, oh yes, we have him tomorrow and him the day after. But this feels like an event, and I'm really pleased to get back here after all this time. I have some connections here, as you know.
Yes, some family in Leeds.
Yes, I've acquired some roots, because my wife comes from here. I have an amazing mother-in-law here who feeds me up and makes me full of energy.
You're only doing 3 concerts in this country on this particular tour, aren't you? Why is that?
Yes, well, it was attempt to cover the country in the best way we thought. We wanted to do some big gigs because we've never actually done them, with the exception of Hyde Park many years ago. We've never done the large outdoor gigs in England. We just thought we'd give it a try. We had all kinds of problems. I don't know if you heard, because we wanted to do Arsenal football ground.
Yes, I did hear something about that.
And we wanted to do Sheffield, was it Manchester United, beg your pardon.
Great.
Ground. But there were lots of objections, and I know there were lots of objections here.
But we managed to override most of them, and the concert is going ahead. Brian, it's great for you to come in this afternoon. I'm afraid I'm going to have to wrap up the interview because we're fast running out of time. I wish you well with the concert tonight. It sounds like it's going to be a goodie. Roughly what time are you due on stage?
I imagine somewhere between 8 and 9. It's a little bit flexible because you never know how fast you can get people on and off. But before 9 anyway, roughly as it gets dark.
Great.
I'm looking forward to it a lot. Excuse me for not coming in yesterday.
We forgive you this time.
The sound check had to come first.